Fantasy Rap
with Austin and Ozzy.
Oh, I just love those boys.
Hey everyone, this is Fantasy Rap, and I'm your host Ozzy.
And I'm your co-host Austin.
You can find us on fantasyrap.com. That is fantasywrap.com. Hey everybody, welcome to the follow-up for Week 11 of the Fantasy season, league, year.
Yep.
First we'll talk about how we did. I, of course, was one of the top 4 or 5 scorers. I mean, it wasn't 2 or 3 like it has been for the last 3 weeks, but still above. I think I was higher than at least half the teams in our Dynasty League, and I lost for the 4th straight week.
Nice.
The other 2 leagues, I eked, and I mean I eked out a win by 0.4 points in my 30-plus year league, and I went to 9-1-1 in my 3rd league that I'm in.
Yep.
That, yeah. I guess it's just not fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
The guy who runs the league, I played against him this past week, and he's like, "Let me win." I said, "Nah, I don't want to do that." He said, "Well, come on." I said, "No."
Potential new listener for what we're doing here.
Right. I asked him. He said, "Well, your team's so good." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Maybe I should." I said, "Do you listen to our podcast?" He said, "No, maybe I should." I said, "Hey, he may not be, he's in the bottom half now."
Yeah.
So, how about you?
Yeah. Dynasty, the league I'm in with you, I believe I lost.
Lost to Q.
Yep. Yeah. I needed. It was kind of out of reach because I think in that league I pretty much had no other option at the time. I thought than Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Oh, there's a winner.
Who's, I'm surprised, is still on the team.
I was not watching, but I heard about the drop. What happened?
It was, to basically almost seal the game to go up with not much time left. Beautiful pass by Mahomes. And, MVS, he's fast.
Yeah.
Had separation, goes out, right in the hands, and then when he was coming down, I think he hit his knee.
Oh, wow.
And then as he followed through, the ball popped out. So,
wow.
Yeah, kind of, shades of Quentin Johnston in the game against the Packers there, who he would have, housed that, for
well, if he would have stayed on his feet. I don't think he was going to stay on his feet. So it reminded you kind of like the first pass of the year last year in Minnesota
Christian Watson.
That hit Christian Watson in the hands.
That pass to Watson was a little better because that was like here.
Yeah.
And MVS had to, he was out, but yes, yeah, exactly. Hit him right in the hands. Should have hauled it in for the go ahead touchdown.
Did you see earlier when MVS was going for a deep pass and he got turned around one way, turned back the other way, turned back, and it's like, dude,
yeah,
you got to learn how to run routes. This is why my buddy in KC contacted me. Hey, how's that MVS guy?
Yeah,
he's not good enough to make the Packers, and the Packers had pretty much nobody.
He's one of those guys that it seems like for whatever reason he has to be triple covered in order for there's got to be guys hanging on him for him to in order.
Didn't he have a big Super Bowl?
I don't remember, to be honest. I really don't remember.
I think it was in the Super Bowl. He had like 100 yards receiving or something.
Oh, yeah, I truly do not remember.
Yeah, I don't remember if that was the one, but
yeah. So, yeah, I lost that one. One in my other dynasty. I had the 3rd highest score in that league, so I was just
usually that doesn't do me any good.
Yeah, I was telling Oz beforehand. We have the top 2 teams are both tied at 9-2, and obviously the only difference between them is just the points scored. So one person's technically in first.
Well, have they played each other?
That I don't
tiebreaker?
know. Yes, that I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, and then there is a 5-way tie for 3rd place at 6-5, with 5 teams, myself included. And then like 4-7, 4-7 or something, and then 0-11. That guy's blowing up. He's in a full rebuild. So
yeah,
yeah.
So is he tanking, or is he trying?
Yes.
Okay.
He's Yeah, his team was just not very good to begin with anyways. I
Okay.
think he kind of saw it on the horizon
Well-
this year that he was going to probably be stripping it down. But
Is this a new league?
no, I think it's been going for a couple years now.
Okay, so you guys got into it,
I got into it.
you
yes.
got into
Yep, yeah. Yep,
and
there's
you
an
just
opening
happened to get
here.
a better team than
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. Yeah, my
Yeah.
team's decent. I'm a little lacking in the quarterback department there.
Sounds
but-
like your other.
Yeah, that too.
Your other one.
Yeah. But yeah, so I might have to. I've got Mahomes in that league. I may have to throw him out there because this is the trade deadline week for this league, I believe.
Gotcha.
So yeah, and then in the redraft. From bad to worse, about as worse as it could get, I am now in last place.
You are the sole owner of the Golden Duche.
Yep, this will be my second time if it goes that way. So
Wow. I might have to find a new co-host.
I mean, all I got to do is win one game in the consolation league, in the consolation bracket, and I won't get it. So we don't have a record in that. It's just losses in that bracket. So yeah,
good luck.
I mean, we'll talk about our injuries, but losing two cornerstones and Joe Burrow and Mark Andrews in that team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Doesn't help.
Welcome
Although-
Jordan Love and Cade Otton and Kyle Pitts to my roster.
Did you drop Andrews?
Not yet. I put
Okay.
him in IR.
Okay, hold him there
Yeah, I mean
because he
they
may
said
be back.
late December or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah,
So
well-
and then Burrow too. I'm just still holding on.
Burrow
I mean,
is-
they haven't
sounds like
said
he's
anything, but yeah, I mean, if he tore a ligament, which is what
Right.
they're saying,
Right.
then yeah. But I'm just not making it just doesn't matter for my team, so I'm just holding them just in case there's some miracle diagnosis. But yeah, so yeah,
Fun times.
Yep.
Let's move on to our injuries. Our first one is Deonta Foreman. Ankle injury, unknown how long he might be out, which was nice that they got Herbert back so that they could use him.
Yeah, yeah.
He did a little bit better he did better than I think expected because I don't think they were expecting to play him a whole lot.
No, yeah, it kind of sucks for Foreman. I mean, again, we don't know how long he'll miss, but he's a guy who you wish, because he tore his Achilles his rookie year, I believe, maybe even before in like preseason or something. And a guy, I think he was out of Texas, if I remember correctly, who, they always compared him to like Derrick Henry. Like he was
Gotcha.
like a second coming of Derrick Henry, and he's had some huge games. I mean, like we've talked about him and Chuba Hubbard last year in
Yep.
Carolina,
Yeah.
putting up monster games.
Yeah.
If he had hadn't tore that Achilles and stayed on a team for a decent amount of time, especially with like the Texans right now with that team, if they still had him in his prime, that'd be scary.
Yeah, yeah. Next up, we've got Aaron Jones out this week with a knee injury. Apparently, it is a sprained MCL. Got away with without major damage.
Yep.
He's had sprained MCLs in the past. Usually misses a week or so, but being that they play on Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Central Time,
And against
he will not be.
Detroit, which is a tough matchup
in
for running
Detroit.
backs. Yep.
So with a bad knee, you don't go play on that carpet. Unfortunately, we lost we lost 5 players that game in that stadium last year, including Gary and
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
and Stokes. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they've changed anything there.
I think
don't
this
know.
off season we'll probably see a major change, and because all the players, I mean, all of
Right.
them want grass across the board,
Right.
and it makes sense because you're seeing a lot of those, the non-contact ACLs and stuff, and
Yeah.
then like the kind of scary one with Travis Kelce a couple of weeks ago against I think Minnesota when he slipped and then his foot caught. And then he got up weird, and
Yeah.
people were thinking he broke something or whatever with his foot. So yeah, I think
I'm sure he got
and
lots
him
of
and,
care.
Travis and Jason have their own podcast, and after that they went on a pretty good rant about
Yeah.
getting rid of turf. So every kind of turf. There's no good kind of turf. It's it's got to be grass.
Yeah.
And I agree, because you can't tell me these owners of these stadiums can't afford it. So
Well, and really, what is there to afford?
no.
I mean, my guess
They're
is
like, well, it's in a dome. It's like, all right, well, you put UV light in. Great, done.
well, okay.
You got.
I mean, a lot of those have some sort of.
You got people 5 blocks from the stadium, probably growing something in their basement.
Right, they could just borrow the lighting.
Yeah.
So, and so the next one is Emmanuel Wilson, another running back for Green Bay, out this week. He's week to week with a shoulder injury. So they have signed Patrick Taylor to the active roster off of New England's
That sounds right.
practice squad,
Yeah.
and then they also signed James Robinson back to the practice squad. So it's going to definitely be AJ Dillon this week. So if Dillon's available, he might be a good waiver wire pickup.
Yep.
I wouldn't necessarily pick up Patrick Taylor. My guess is it's going to be more of a shootout, a passing game.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Goff played pretty sloppy against Chicago. I mean, Chicago had the game won.
Right.
And,
And decided that first round pick.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the NFL needs to investigate.
Which is interesting, because we had a case of that in our the Dynasty League that the two of us are in, and it seemed like someone might be tanking intentionally. Turns out that they didn't. They just had so much going on, and they apologized for not taking care of their team. And I am not a proponent of outward tanking, which means, he in this case he had Bagent and Fields, and he had Bagent in instead of Fields.
Yeah, correct.
You can't do that. He had 2 other guys, one that was out and one was on a bye. And like I said, he came out and he said after I made a comment about it, he came out yesterday, I think it was, and said, I apologize. I thought I had set my roster. I've just got so much going on. That I understand. It's when you intentionally. I mean, I don't mind what that other guy is doing either. If you're trying I don't care if you're playing rookies.
Yeah.
Have a fair roster.
Yeah.
Don't have guys that are on a practice squad, aren't on the active roster, aren't on the active 53 or whatever.
Yep.
Do not play those guys on a bye, etc. And we talked about it. The team that we were mentioning that on Thursday they played an illegal player. They played Higgins.
Oh, yeah.
And Higgins was out.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Had been labeled out all week.
Yes. And once a player as far as I know, I don't know if Yahoo does it.
Yep.
And maybe they can't allow it. If he's out and he's on the roster of a Thursday night team and the Thursday night game is played, you can't switch him out after the fact.
Not if he's in your starting.
Right.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Okay.
Because he's already played. He
hasn't played because he was listed as out.
Yeah, but the way I'm sure they would view it is like, well, you've got whoever in your flex scores 5 points, somebody on your bench scores 20. You can't just because they play on Thursday. It's that, Yeah. So
yeah.
Yep.
So I have like I said, I've got some issues with it. So I prefer when people are on the up and up. And like I said, this guy came through and said, apologies, my fault.
Yep.
All cool. Next up, we've got Cooper Kupp, day-to-day with an ankle injury. And he actually, I believe, made our duds list.
Yep.
He's struggling this year.
Yeah, struggling to stay healthy, which has been kind of his MO. I think.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It wasn't before last year, was it?
Yeah, I mean, him and Stafford just can't seem to stay on the field.
No.
Yeah, I mean, so that'll do if he misses. Obviously, Puka is a
But
smash
Puka's
play.
questionable too.
Oh, he is? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he ended up saved it in like the fourth quarter, I think, but ended up having a pretty good stat line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That touchdown right at the goal line where then they moved him to about the 10.
Yep.
And it's like, guys, the whistle has blown. Guys,
It's done.
the
It's
whistle
over.
has blown. Stop trying to take the ball away from him.
Yeah, so I want to see more. You got like you're talking about the brotherly shove in Philly.
Yeah.
You know what I miss? I miss Drew Brees. Remember they'd be down on the goal line and he would just jump. He'd jump and just stick the ball over, and then he'd still be standing outside the end zone.
It's a good way to lose the ball, though, with some of these
He
guys
never did.
pulling it out.
I never did. Like I said, I always thought it was really he'd just jump and stick the ball over, break the plane, and every single time. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Next up, we've got Devon Achane. Same knee that he had injured. Unknown
Yep.
how long he might be out. Savan Ahmed had a
Touchdown.
decent game
Yep.
in his stead behind Mostert. And I think Mostert is questionable again. I believe he was questionable last week. So Salvan Ahmed might be a
Raheem Mostert being
yeah.
questionable?
I know. We only spent the first 6 weeks of the season saying you should trade him while you could.
Yeah.
Maybe this is as far as he gets in the season.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of sucks for Achane owners, where if he was your waiver wire savior in the beginning of the year or after that first big game and you were able to get him, and then you're sitting there waiting for him to come back, and who knows what's going to happen, how long he might be out.
Right, and most of the leagues,
especially if you started him.
Right,
Woof.
and most of the leagues are past the trade deadline,
Oh,
so
yeah.
you're kind of stuck with what you have unless you can pick up someone who's looking like they might do something.
Yeah.
And I mean, in an 18 league, that's easy. In a 10-team league, it might not be so bad. 12, it starts getting harder. 16-team league, forget about it. I mean, you got pretty much
Somebody's
everyone
probably
gone.
been rostering Ahmed all season.
Actually, Ahmed's available.
Oh, well. Okay.
Although I don't know if he's a better option than Gainwell in the long run.
Yeah,
because any of those guys, if someone gets hurt, well, then they move into a starting role. Achane could still come back this year.
Yep.
If Mostert got hurt, so that doesn't make Ahmed a great play. Whereas if Swift goes out, Gainwell looked like the starter the first week until he got injured. So I would guess that it would go back to Gainwell as opposed to
Ahmed.
No.
Rashad Penny,
Penny,
who has completely disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
next up, we've got Darius Slayton. Looks like it was an arm issue, and it's unknown how long he'll be out. And I don't know what to say about that other than Danny DeVito just, may or may not have.
It was
a
Tommy
chance.
this week. You can call him by his real name this time.
Yeah,
'cause
he
had a
had
good
week. Yeah, he did.
So, I mean, Slayton, he caught the touchdown, and then I think it was like right after that, went out with the arm and got ruled out immediately.
Gotcha.
Like, it wasn't like, he might come back, and then later they were like, yeah, no, he's done.
Yeah.
It was like right away, so it
Gotcha.
could be something serious. Not that any pass catchers in New York really matter.
No. Well, yeah, the only
Besides
pass catcher.
Saquon.
Yeah, the only pass receiver. I mean, the guy who can catch a pass was Saquon because he had a heck of a day.
Yes.
Next up is Geno Smith, tricep/elbow issue. Good chance to play this week. So.
I think is that against San Francisco?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Ken Walker, next guy.
Yeah.
Out this week. Like I said, probably not going on IR, but
yeah, I don't think they want him to go.
I think
they made it sound like it was really
weeks.
bad.
Yeah, 2-3 weeks.
Well,
3
that's
weeks, hopefully,
that's
but
an old
basically,
guy coach.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like 74 years old or something.
Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll.
Yeah. Chewing on his bubble gum.
Which we chose Kenneth Walker or I did as the running back, and he got hurt after just a couple of plays. So
Charbonnet, tough matchup, but he's going to get all of the work. And it'd been a little more 50-50 over the last couple of weeks too.
Another guy who you could pick up if he's available in smaller leagues.
Yep, for sure. But yeah, Gino, if he plays, like I said, it's going to be tough. It was nice, DK Metcalf finally, had a pretty good game as well, 90 yards and a touchdown or something. So, that one could get ugly for Seattle. Because San Francisco's defense has been playing pretty good the last couple weeks.
Yeah,
so
very well.
Since their bye.
As long as San Francisco doesn't score 17 points, they win.
Yep.
So just keep them from the 17.
Yep.
Next up, we've got Grant Calcaterra,
who is a
tight end
for the Philadelphia Eagles.
You are right.
I remember I saw it on.
And how do we know that? Because he played last night.
Yep.
And he injured his ankle, and it's unknown how long he'll be out. They already lost Goddard.
Yep.
So it's a who can we possibly play type of deal right now.
Yeah. I don't even know who's next up there. No clue.
Well, I think Calcaterra was like third.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was an ugly game because of the weather.
Mm-hmm.
What should have been, it's like the only thing that saved Hurts in that game as one of our picks was the 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah,
you couldn't throw the ball because it was all wet.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of a sloppy
first
game.
Quarter was 7-7 or something like that. It was
they both
out really bad, like really slow.
Well, I think they both punted or something or something like that, and that it was 3 and out, both with a sack, and then all of a sudden KC scored, and Philly rushed right down the field and scored, and then it kind of went slowly again. Next up, we've got Joe Burrow. Wrist issue.
Yep.
I've read some articles that say that the NFL is going to investigate fully
because he was seeing
come down hard.
They had the picture of him with the compression sleeve on it on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And they didn't disclose. The team didn't disclose anything.
Yeah.
So.
That's
that one.
Does that get into draft pick?
It sounds like listening to another NFL or sports podcast, they were saying from what they've been hearing from some of their sources that the NFL is pretty upset about it.
Yeah.
Especially because that should have been a very, very entertaining, high scoring game with them against
I know,
the
and
Ravens.
this impacts betting.
Well, that too. That's why the NFL is. I think the NFL.
Yeah, because as long as players don't bet, anybody else can bet, but players can't bet. So the NFL is all about betting.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense. But
that one sucks.
But I do agree. It's like I just read an article. Justin Jefferson. Hey people, stop DMing me. I am not going to I'm not going to play before I'm ready to play.
Yeah, especially because his was a hamstring, right?
Yeah.
Those you have to be truly 100% before you come back, because the risk of re-injury is super high for
and they're talking about not playing him this week, and it's Monday night anyway against the Bears.
Yeah, they don't need him.
Well, but the thing is, if you're a fantasy manager, I'm playing against a team that has Justin Jefferson. There's no way he can play Justin Jefferson.
No.
Because you're probably going to have a 0 because he's probably going to sit because guess what? The Vikings have a Week 13 bye.
Oh, yeah.
So why, they're probably going to sit him.
Mm-hmm. Especially with how good Dobbs has been playing.
Yeah.
Their defense has been... I put in a waiver claim in one of the dynasties to get the Minnesota defense for this week, going against the Bears. So, back to the Burrow. If the league, if they do find anything, worth, or what they deem as necessary to proceed with either fines or a loss of a pick. I mean, a loss of a pick would be huge.
Well, and I could foresee something like second or third round.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'd have to double check, but there was a video, and it was of Joe Burrow talking to somebody, and I would assume, I doubt it would be after the game, because I'm sure he was probably going, into the hospital, or he was back in the locker room getting checked out.
Well, he might have been putting that sleeve back on.
Yeah, but it was from the side, but as he turns, he kind of leans into somebody, and you can see his mouth, and he goes, "I felt something pop." So I don't know if it was after or if it had been before, and he was talking about whatever initially happened. So I'm sure the NFL will look into that. But yeah, I mean, this Mixon's been playing good, or better as of late.
Yeah.
Actually, cashing in on that draft capital. I think he's going to see a pretty steady workload, just to kind of keep some of the pressure off of Browning.
Yep.
This really hurts Jamar Chase, his ceiling. I think he'll still be fine, but you're not going to be getting, those, 35-point weeks at all. And
no,
Higgins,
especially
he comes back too,
especially when Tyler Eifert is going to steal most of those the looks.
Yeah, so. But yeah, so that kind of really hurts Cincinnati, and I mean the Bengals too. They got to look inward, at what they're doing. I mean, you've got, really, I was listening to the clip of, I can't think of his name. I think it's Nick Wright.
Okay.
I think that's who I'm thinking of. Sports, co-host personality guy, and Joe Burrow. I mean, in the last maybe 20 years is probably the most important / best player for the Bengals.
Oh yeah.
And they are just beating the absolute.
I thought it was Honey Badger.
Honey Badger. I don't know. Did he ever play for the Bengals? I don't think he ever played for the Bengals.
Who did he start with?
Geez. I know he was on.
I was thinking he
was on the
started with
Saints
the
and the
Badgers.
Cardinals.
Okay.
I can't remember where he started, but Texans maybe. I think maybe he was on the Texans.
Okay.
But anyways, with the calf, everybody was like, just sit him down for the 4 weeks, let him heal. But nope, they struggled through it, losing all these games, and starting out bad, and it probably took longer for his leg to heal. And then now, like I said, with this, before, a couple days before, seeing the compression, and then seeing his hand in warm-ups it was so swollen.
Well,
You
and
knew
when he
something was right.
when he was when he heard it and was warming up on the sidelines, you could see that it was puffy.
Yep.
They're also, they probably have no chance of re-signing T. Higgins at the end of the year.
Probably not, unless they work
Mixon is getting older.
Some wizardry with their money.
I don't think they'll be able to. It's the reality of these quarterbacks making $50 million a year, and you've got Jamar Chase already. You can't afford a T. Higgins on top of it and expect to have everything else to fill
aging
in.
Tyler Boyd, who's I don't know where he's at with his contract or anything, but it might be advantageous for them to cut ties early.
Yeah, they've got Irwin.
With that. Yeah, who's flashed. Him and Burrow have somewhat of a connection. So be
interesting to see.
Yeah.
But if you are a Joe Burrow owner or you need a quarterback, I would definitely think about Jake Browning. He's another one of those guys like Dobbs, Dobbs had to step into a nice situation at a place where he didn't even know the plays. At least Browning looked pretty decent when he came in. So
especially against, like the top, like the number 2 rated defense in the NFL right now. So
yeah. So he might be an option.
I went the route. I'm going with Jordan Love this week. Hopefully should be able to keep up with Detroit. We'll see.
Good luck.
So there's other options though. It came down. Well, I had picked up Russ, and then he did kind of meh against Minnesota. They ended up winning, but Yeah, so I was just like, well, there's between Jordan Love or Baker Mayfield in that league, and I was like, well, we'll ride, a little bit. I mean, Love had a pretty decent game for fantasy.
He had a great game.
Yeah, so
but it was against a horrible defense.
Yep.
So we'll see. Last up is Mark Andrews, possible IR, out for several weeks, ankle injury, cracked the ankle, ligament damage. Now I don't know what that means. Cracking the ankle. I mean, when I broke my ankle,
I think he cracked like right at the base or wherever it connects into the ankle.
Because your fibula wraps around the outside of your foot and is considered your ankle on the outside.
Gotcha.
Which when I broke mine, I snapped. The whole outside piece pretty much was broken off.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound like that's what happened here. So if he just has a crack in it or something, it may be that he's able to come back a lot sooner than
they were talking like end of December, I think, or late December. So
I didn't skate for 6 weeks, but this was like 15 years ago. I was playing hockey when it happened, and I actually skated 6 weeks, I think, to the day later, but I don't think I went back and played that season.
Yeah, I mean, he's 28, I believe, 28 or 29. So, I mean, in NFL terms, he's, getting a little older.
Long in the tooth.
Yeah. They got Isaiah Likely, who I think really has only had like one good game filling in for Mark Andrews, and I think it was like last season.
I thought he had a couple.
I mean, maybe a couple, but I like there was one like big one.
Oh yeah.
Which coming into the Mark Andrews role, you would assume that he would be a tight end that can get you Mark Andrews numbers because he's athletically about the same. But I find it hard to go out. I mean, I put a waiver claim in on him in the Dynasty League that I have Andrews just, to have, more depth and everything. Right. So, but I mean, if you can look potentially elsewhere, more, like me, it's going to be streaming, matchup based from here on out instead of just having that guy you can just leave in.
So question for you. Are you in any leagues that lock your rosters at playoff time?
I don't think they lock it all. Obviously, if you say you're in the consolation or in the playoffs and you lose your first week or whatever, and then that matchup is like your last matchup after that to determine your placement. Once you're like done, then obviously it locks. But I think once it's at playoffs, I don't think it locks.
See, our 30-year one, it locks on at the time of the first game, I believe, of our playoffs. So once our playoffs start, we're done.
Yeah.
You have whoever's on your roster, and we had a guy who had one quarterback, and the quarterback went down, and he actually played in the championship without a quarterback and won.
Impressive.
But it's I was always used to that, and then I went into a league where you're 3 weeks into the playoffs, you're playing in the championship, and this guy's available, so I'm going to go get him. And I was just like, whoa, how do you do that?
Yeah.
So, okay. Moving on to our studs. Calvin Ridley. I thought we were never going to call this name again because Calvin Ridley.
I would have said maybe once, and this might be it. But I mean.
Okay, so plus 16.49, 7 of 9, 103 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 rush, 18 yards. And those aren't huge numbers. But because he doesn't score many points. I mean, this is in non-PPR.
Yeah.
So you're talking 10, 22, 32, 22, 24 points. So he was only predicted to score 7.5 points.
Yeah.
So, they're obviously thinking, I don't know which Calvin Ridley is going to show up.
Yeah.
The one that we saw the first week of the season or second week or whatever it was. Or the one that we have seen since then, or now this guy again. Kind of baffling.
Yeah, I mean, it helps, Trevor Lawrence played better as well. Granted, he only threw for 262 yards, and 103 of those were to Calvin Ridley.
Right.
But Lawrence had the 5 rushes for the 17 yards and the 2 rushing touchdowns,
Right.
which hurt, ETN.
ETN
had been on a monster tear because of all the touchdowns he had been scoring.
Right.
Lawrence takes them away, and obviously, of course, ETN suffers. But
Yeah.
I think Lawrence maybe got a little mad, because he's another one of those quarterbacks that, like I was talking about Jordan Love, quite a few weeks ago about how it would be nice to see a little more emotion.
Yeah.
Lawrence is kind of the same, where he's just that kind of stoic. You never really see him like upset or even you see him get a little excited, when they're playing well and stuff. But maybe he got a little upset and used a little anger to his benefit. And
Yeah. I see it both ways.
Yeah.
I don't know what I prefer. I see a guy like Mahomes, and I think he's too much into stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Jordan Love is polar opposite, and I just somewhere in between is where I like it.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Next on the list, we have Saquon Barkley plus 15.89. 4 catches on 5 targets, 57 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he rushed 14 times for 83 yards. They were up early, and they held the lead, and it showed.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's not going to happen every week. And unfortunately,
they have a horrible schedule coming up.
So if you think
backs,
Saquon is going to be your savior, I don't think he is.
The only way he is that he's going to have massive workload no matter what. No matter what. I mean, the 14 carries, 83 yards, that's, on 14 carries, that's pretty good.
Oh, yeah, very good.
But the 4 or 5 for the 57
that's
yards,
6
2
yards.
receiving touchdowns.
Yeah, 6 yards a carry.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep. The 2 touchdowns, I mean, the one was a full-on receiver route. He, was running, that was not a dump off, and he takes off and, has this amazing run and to get in the end zone. I mean, it was an amazing catch, but I mean, that was a full-on route that he ran.
Gotcha.
So he's the offense. So he's gonna
because they have
usage is just gonna make him.
Well, they have a plethora
decent.
of top wide receivers. Sarcasm. So really, I'm told that I say things with such a straight face, and that I'm so convincing that people believe me. Ask my kids.
Yeah.
So it helps when I actually tell people when I'm being sarcastic, because next up we have Khalil Shakir, plus 15.8 points, 3 catches on 4 targets for 115 yards and a touchdown.
81 of those yards on 1 touchdown.
I know, and
the longest touchdown of the season.
I was yelling I was playing against, so in my 30 plus year league, I was playing against quarterback.
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And he bad first half, I'm sitting there thinking, this is perfect. If I go into Monday night with a lead, I could pull this out. This is the one I won by 0.4 points. And all of a sudden that scored, and I'm like, oh, that killed me. That killed me. I mean, you think of an 80-yard touchdown. Well, for a quarterback, that's 4 points passing plus another 6 points for the touchdown, because it's more than 50 yards. And, I mean, that's a 10-point play.
Yeah. I mean, I was on the other end of Josh Allen doing that, and with Stephon Diggs, who I think it's going to get pretty interesting and spicy in Buffalo here come off season, because I mean,
it is unless he starts looking his way the rest of the year.
That's the thing too. I mean, it just makes no sense. I mean, granted, I think Buffalo won. I would assume. Maybe they won, maybe they didn't. I honestly don't remember. But you got a guy who you're paying a crap load of money to.
Well, they were playing the Jets, weren't they? The Jets?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they were winning.
They won.
Yeah, they won pretty handily, because Zach Wilson is bad at football and got benched for Tim Boyle.
Yeah. Tim Boyle,
famous Green Bay Packer bench warmer quarterback.
card carrying or
Yeah. Clipboard.
clipboard carrying.
Yeah, so, I mean, Shaqiri's a fast guy. He's kind of like a Shaheed kind of player where
Right.
he can just bust one of these every now and then.
Yeah. And, I watched that play, and I'm like, this is horrible tackling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had so many. And you know who he beat?
Sauce.
Sauce.
Yeah.
I mean, Sauce looked horrible in
Mm-hmm.
that game. Stupid penalty. And then on top of it, he didn't cover well, and he didn't tackle, and so.
Yeah.
Next up is Jaylen Warren, plus 15.3, 3 catches on 3 targets, 16 yards, 9 rushes, 129 yards, and a touchdown. Obviously, that's 18.9, 19, 20.5 points. They were only thinking he was going to get 5 points.
Yeah.
So obviously he did a little bit better than that. And
Yep.
and wasn't it just like last week that we had Najee on here?
I think so, yeah.
As a stud?
I mean, yeah, because that was against Green Bay, and I think they both were studs. Because Warren had a good game as well against Green Bay.
Yeah.
But, he only had 9 rushes, 129 yards.
Yeah.
Why not? Why didn't he have 15 carries? Najee had like 15 carries.
Well, I think Najee had
But
the
he had-
majority of the work.
Yeah,
And
but
he
he
broke
put
a
up
big
a-
one and
Put up a Najee kind of stat line,
Right. Right.
mediocre.
well, and it
but,
sits there. It makes you think about who are they going to go with. I can't believe that they're going to start Jaylen Warren
Well, I think
or even give him.
technically he's the starter, but they said that last week that he was like the 1A, and then Najee had the first 5 carries.
Okay.
So Warren's got juice. I mean, he's a little smaller guy, but he brings.
But he doesn't get the
brings
same
hit.
number of touches.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing. I think they're doing the committee, but I think Najee is a good running back. It's just one we talked about if anybody had saw. If not, Matt Canada got fired finally from Pittsburgh after the entire city was about to storm the facility.
Because he's a Canadian.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't want to talk about those guys. So who knows? I mean,
Yeah, it'll be interesting going forward.
Yeah.
Again, it's one of those, more people drafted Najee as a top back, and he hasn't performed it like that. And
well, I don't think nobody really thought Jaylen Warren was going to come in and play as well as he
no.
had, and that's why you're thinking, well, Najee, same as the year, his second year, and then obviously he had the huge rookie year, but that's because Ben Roethlisberger couldn't throw the ball more than 15 yards down the field. He had a
5 yards.
5 yards, yeah. The amount of receptions Najee had his rookie year is what boosted him, but it was looking like Najee was going to be a true workhorse
Right.
and have basically sole possession, and then all of a sudden Warren starts getting in, and
and now that you've changed out your offensive coordinator, who knows which back
yeah,
is going to be the guy? Who knows if they'll run as much as
True.
they might pass coming up? I mean, it's just
Yeah.
it's an unknown, and which is tough because we're a couple weeks from playoff time
yeah,
in fantasy, and to not have a clue about and now being past most of the trade deadlines,
yeah.
to not have an idea of if you're an owner of one or the other of those, you don't know what you're going to do potentially.
Well, that was I had made a trade last week. I sent Mike Evans to a co-man or manager in the league. He sent me David Montgomery.
Right.
This week turned out it was a pretty fair trade.
Okay.
Unfortunately for him, fortunately he has CMC, but his second running back was Aaron Jones,
Yeah.
who got hurt. Got rid of David Montgomery.
Yep.
And now you've got Najee playing 1B to Jaylen Warren
Yeah.
on his roster. So, I mean, he's still got CMC, so he's fine. But to go from that stable of running backs,
Yeah.
to
To now.
who knows what's going to go on with Aaron Jones, how long he might be out.
Right.
To Najee losing out on being the sole running back and putting up decent stat lines, to now Montgomery on a different roster in exchange for Mike Evans, which is a fair trade, but it kind of got a little thin for him quick over the weekend.
Interesting. Let's move on to our duds. First one's really easy. Devon Achane, minus 11.81. He only had 2 touches. He rushed the ball 1 time for 1 yard, had 1 catch for 4 yards. Hopefully he can make it back. Exciting young ball player.
Yeah. That's, like I said, too, if you started him, yikes. Probably lost you a week. But also going into it, it was truly feast or famine. He was either going to come back and be great or something like this where he gets, obviously the one, only 1 carry for a yard and then 1 catch. I don't remember how soon it was or how early into the game that he had gotten dinged up.
I had to think. Yeah, I didn't see it either. We were gone, so didn't go back and watch that game.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it happened
Probably.
First quarter.
Yep. So that was the risk you were running. Putting him out in your starting lineup was either, like I said, he was going to come back and be great, or he was going to come back and obviously. Best worst case scenario is that they were gonna slowly ease him back in and give him maybe only 5 carries or something. So but yeah.
Then we've got Cooper Kupp minus 10.41. He was 1 catch on 1 target for 11 yards.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that one a little bit.
Yep.
Earlier in the injuries. Just this season, and then last season. I think it's the same ankle that he had, last season.
Okay.
I think he ended up getting surgery on.
Oh, I was going to say, it pretty much has to be. I mean, you have, never mind. There's going to be an ankle joke. Of course, it's the same ankle. I mean, he's got 2 of them.
Yep. So
really bad.
So that if he's misses time, that sucks for the Rams and obviously Stafford, who. He's thrown for a decent amount of yardage, but just no touchdowns.
But
I
if
think
Puka
they're expecting
Nacua,
Kyren back this week, which should help.
Yeah.
Because we obviously saw early, the first couple weeks with Cooper Kupp out and how great Puka was with the 21 targets he had or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Kyren was very good.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Darrell Henderson.
Okay.
Their running back.
Yeah.
He was released, I believe.
Was he full released or put back down on the practice squad?
I believe he was
because they had been flip-flopping him.
Yeah, I don't know if they had another opportunity to.
Oh, yeah.
He only gets so many of those. Okay. I believe he was released.
Okay, so then that...
Which Kyren, then of course in the Packer Bleacher Report community, we need Darrell Henderson because we have no running backs.
Yeah, I think he was mentioned, was that either last year or year before when Aaron Jones missed some time too? I think his name came up as well. But yeah, they've got Royce Freeman, who has looked decent in a couple spots.
I thought Darrell Henderson was looking decent, although he didn't look that good against the Packers.
Well, yeah. So like I said, with Kupp, you hope he can come back and in maybe a week or 2.
I don't, because he's not on any of my rosters.
True, but
if he's not on my roster, I don't care about him.
Yeah, but he's still. Even with the injury in the year, he still cost. In drafts cost a pretty good price. Because you're still. Where you drafted him. There's a lot of draft capital in fantasy drafts. So
absolutely.
He's been. The first couple of weeks obviously killed you because he wasn't available, and now he's hurting you again.
Yeah, yeah, and injuries. Injuries toward the back half of the game aren't nearly as impactful as ones where you have 1 catch.
Yeah.
Or you had 1 catch and 1 run.
Mm-hmm.
Like we said, injuries aren't good at all.
Yeah.
But as a fantasy owner, they're more palatable later in the game.
Yep.
Next, we've got A.J. Brown, minus 10.01. He had 1 catch, 4 targets, 8 yards. Again, the weather yesterday was horrible in Kansas City. I don't think either quarterback came out and lit the world up on fire. So I don't expect that A.J. Brown is going to continue to have games like that.
Mm-hmm.
it was a product of the weather.
Yeah, I agree. And Kansas City's defense is good.
Oh yeah.
So, that coupled
they
with
put-
the weather, I mean.
They put their top guy on him, and he was in his face all the time.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
move on to the next one. Kenneth Walker, minus 10 points, 1 reception on 1 target for minus 2 yards, 4 rushes for 18 yards. Struggling to stay healthy also, in and out, in and out.
Yeah. That was, I think, same with last season, too. He was kind of in and out, banged up.
Yeah, you
When
never
he's
knew who
healthy,
was going to be
he's-
playing. DJ
there you go.
Dallas or
Yeah, whoever.
Rashad Penny or...
Yeah, well, was that last year that Penny ended up? Yeah, I think Walker missed quite a bit of time,
Yeah.
and Penny came in and was very good. For a
But then
little
I
bit,
think
but
he
yeah.
got injured, and DJ
Yeah.
Dallas was, and you never Homer,
Oh yeah, Travis Homer.
Travis
yeah.
Homer. So
I think
yeah,
he's now on the Bears, but
yeah. So it's one of those, I'm not. He will scare me a little bit moving forward because he hasn't. It's like CMC.
yeah,
CMC, those 2 years in a row scared me. And then all of a sudden he played an entire season.
Yep.
And I mean, even this year he got injured and he played the following week.
Yep.
So, you can be one of those guys, but I'm afraid of them until they show that they're dependable. Same thing with Aaron Jones now. I mean, Aaron Jones has had a couple of years of injuries, et cetera.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I mean, he's also going on 28, 29
Yep.
years old. So
Yeah, probably not going to be on the Packers next season.
probably not, even though it's going to cost him $17 million in dead money.
Yep.
Last on our list is Garrett Wilson, minus 9.11. He had 2 catches on 8 targets for 9 yards. They could not find a way to get him the ball.
Well, like I said, Zach Wilson is horrible at football. There was some, I think I'd mentioned there was some weird stuff that Saleh had kind of alluded
Danced
to,
around the fact that someone's making me do this.
by not said something that he wasn't allowed to make a change. But as a head coach, you got to be able to kind of pound the table and be like, look, I know he's your boy. We took him the second pick overall in that draft, I think. So they want to give him every opportunity he can to show, but it's been, he's shown enough.
Yeah. What else do you want to see?
Yeah. So he's just, the Garrett Wilson, that's a quarterback issue. Obviously going into the season, everybody thought that you were going to have Aaron Rodgers all season.
Yeah,
and
we
Garrett
talked about
Wilson
that. He
would
was
probably
drafted.
have been a top 5 wide receiver potentially. So,
Yeah.
so if you had drafted any Jets, sorry.
Yeah.
Brees Hall has been good. He had quite a few receptions. I think that's what saved him this week was he had a receiving touchdown. So, and Garrett Wilson, Tim Boyle came in for the fourth quarter, and that's how Garrett Wilson actually had caught his first pass, and that came in the fourth quarter. So, yeah.
So let's move on to our waiver wire. I have not included buy low, sell high because trades are pretty much done.
Yep.
So our waiver wire looks like Jake Browning, who we've talked about now that Joe Burrow is out, and could, like we said about Dobbs, could be stepping into a great situation. You've got Tommy DeVito had a big week.
Yeah.
3 touchdowns, I think, passing. Well,
Yes,
two
it was
to,
like 200 something yards, like 240 or 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. So,
so not horrible.
No,
Washington's defense, they have no pass rush. So
they gutted that defense. They're bad. So
would have been interesting to see Danny Dimes play in that one. He wouldn't have gotten sacked 42 times. Next up, we've got Jalen Warren, who we talked about, who may or may not be available based on the type of league you're in. Definitely, if he's available, he might be worth a solid look.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
The other one I've got is Salvin Ahmed, and we talked a little bit about a couple of others who might be of value, but like a Shakira. These hips don't lie. So the other thing we have is, and we talked about it a little bit already, is our loser of the week, who is the guy who played T. Higgins
Yeah.
on the Thursday night game, and of course we could throw in the guy in our in our league that started Bajent and
Yep.
and a guy on a bye and a guy on but
Up until he explained it was our loser.
right, yeah, he was definitely going to be the loser just because he threw it like that, but ends up he didn't intend to. So the loser of the week is anyone who played T. Higgins.
Yep.
And that's all we've got for this week.
Yeah.
Did you want to add anything else?
If you still have trades open, I know I had brought up Derrick Henry a couple times.
Oh.
Don't bother. I think
What did he have?
I think Vrabel is just checked out. You watch the games, and Vrabel's he's a pretty emotional, fired up kind of guy. At least had been. You'd see him yelling and in the locker room with the guys. He seems like he's just fully checked out.
But what are we talking? 10 touches, 10 carries, something like that?
Yeah, well, they got, yet again. I mean, like I said, it makes no sense. He's, your best running back. I mean, Spears is going to be good, I think, next year when Derrick Henry's gone.
Right.
But, they get down and they just panic and he's sitting on the sideline because, I mean, granted, yes, it takes time to let him, to hand the ball off to him and all that. But he's still, I mean, even though he hasn't been able to show it, still has that one cut gone type of playmaking ability.
Well, not to mention, we've seen it over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Going into the late into the third quarter and during the fourth quarter, as he's pounded it 25 times, then you start seeing chunks of 10, 12, 15, 20 yards at a carry.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Titans get down and they just completely abandon it. And like I said, I don't know. I said weeks ago, I think Vrabel's going to be potentially he's going to be getting shipped out. Kicked out of that position. Come the off season here,
Which is too bad because I've always considered him a really good coach.
Well, there's like all these rumors starting about Belichick going to Washington.
Yeah.
Next season, and
Well, heck, they've
him
even
and
said
Vrabel
that
have a connection because he played for Belichick and
okay.
everything, and
So he's
maybe
gonna
he
be
comes
the-
in on the staff. I mean, because they got, I think Belichick with whoever's the OC now. Why can't I think of it? The guy from Kansas City, for all the years.
Oh, yeah.
God, I can't. Why?
Running back, right?
No,
Prior running back?
he was the offensive coordinator for Kansas City, and then he came to.
Oh, then I'm drawing a blank.
I can't remember. If
Okay.
you guys know, you know who I'm talking about. Who part of the reason why Kansas City was so great. Obviously you have Mahomes and Tyreek and Travis Kelce, but so they got him. Maybe Vrabel comes in a little more defensive, on the defensive side. I don't know. I'm just speculating, maybe.
yeah.
But yeah,
I remember-
like I said, if you have trades still available,
I remember
buy
when we
super low and just hope that, because his schedule still is really good.
Yeah.
But just buy super low as you can if you're going to. So
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I speculated last season along about week 8 or 9 that the Jets would trade for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, good speculation.
Yeah.
It's always a good
I have to
thing.
return to that come next year. See what happens with the whole Vrabel, Tennessee,
Yeah.
Belichick stuff.
We'll have to see. Otherwise, that's all we've got for this week. Hope you watch the video podcast on YouTube, or you listen into the podcast on your favorite podcast
Spotify,
channel.
Apple,
Yep.
whatever. Yeah.
Samsung,
Yeah.
Google.
Yep.
They all have it. So otherwise, I am Ozzy.
And I'm Austin.
Have a great week.
See you.